Okay, this is the homework help video for Honors Math 3, Unit 5, Worksheet 7, and I am going to start with question number 14. So for question number 14, I want to solve for x. So the first thing I want to do is isolate the radical, which it already is. So then after that, I'm going to square both sides. And then the square root of squared is going to cancel, leaving just 4 minus 11x. And then on this side here, I want a quantity squared, so I'm going to write it out twice. And I forgot my negative there. And then I want to distribute this side and combine like terms. So I'm going to have negative x times itself, which is positive x squared, and then negative x times 2, and then multiply 2 to both of these. So that'll give me negative 2x and positive 4. And then I'm going to combine like terms, so I can combine those together. And then I want to equal it to 0. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And when I subtract 4 from both sides, that's just going to cancel, right? And then add 11x over. And so for here, I can do a GCF factor, right? So I'm not looking for like two groupings. I can just do what is common. So I can factor an x out of both of those. So then x would equal 0 and negative 7. And then I'm just going to do a quick checkup into here for my extraneous solutions. So if I substitute in 0, I'm going to get 0 plus 2, which is 2, so that's possible. And if I plug in negative 7, I'll get 7 plus 2 is 9. So that means I want to actually check both, so I'm going to go ahead and do my check over here. So it looks like both will be solutions, but I want to check them both. So I'm going to do 0 first. So I'll get 4 minus, and then 11 times 0. And then into here, so negative 0, which is 0. And so that's just 0 here. So that'll give me the square root of 4. And then does that equal 2? So 0 is good. And then now let's try negative 7. So I'm replacing the x terms here. So that x gets replaced with negative 7, and then here I'll have a double negative. So I have negative 11 times negative 7, and then that'll be positive, so 7 plus 2 is 9. So that'll give me 81, and is the square root of 81 9? Yes. So that means that both of them are in the solution set. Okay. All right, and then let's take a look at question number 18. So this one's a little trickier, right? So the first step is to isolate the square root, but you have 2 square roots. So it really doesn't matter like which one you isolate and which one you don't. So I'm going to actually isolate this one right here just because it has 2 terms in it. No other reason other than it has 2 terms. So I'm going to subtract the root x over. And then I need to get rid of that negative, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. And then here I have to divide both, right? So 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2, and then that double negative will turn positive. And so now I'm going to square both sides. So this will cancel. And then write this out twice. And then I want to distribute. So that'll give me positive 4, and then negative 2 root x, and then multiply the root x to both. And then root x times itself is just x. Alright, and so I see if I were to subtract x from both sides, they would just cancel, right? So I'm just going to cross them off so I don't have to write them again. So I have negative 5, and then negative 2 and negative 2 is negative 4. I'm just getting a piece of scratch paper so I have some room. So again, so what I did here was if I subtract x from both sides, they're going to end up canceling. So I'm just left with negative 5 and then the 4, and then negative 2 and negative 2 is negative 4. So now I have to go back and start over with the steps. So I want to isolate the square root. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So now I'm trying to get that square root by itself. So that gives me negative 9. That cancels. And then divide both sides by negative 4. And then I want to quantity square both sides. And so I'm going to go ahead and square. So that would give me 81 over 16, and then that's equal to x. And that's it for that one. And let's take a look at one from the back side here. So we're going to take a look at number 26 and 32. Okay, so this square root is isolated, so I'm going to just go ahead and square both sides. And so this will cancel, leaving just 8x plus 9. And then here, when I square, I need to square both of those. So I have 3 squared, which is 9, and then root x squared, which is just x. So here I'm not going to use zero product property, I'm just going to isolate the variable. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 8x to the other side. So then I have 9 equals 1x, or just x, so x is equal to 9. And one more here, let's take a look at 32. Okay, so the square root is already isolated, so I'm just going to square both sides. And so that will cancel. And then I'm going to write this one out twice. And then go ahead and distribute. And then combine like terms. Okay. And so then once I get to here, I always want to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And I'm also going to subtract the 5. So that will give me 0. That will cancel. And then I have x squared minus 4. And then I can go ahead and factor that. So I'm just going to do that over here. So I would have x plus 2 and x minus 2. So I have a difference of 2 squared, and then solve for both. So I have x equals negative 2 and 2. And then, so my equation that I'm going to check in, so I'm going to just do that down in this space right here. So I have the square root of 2x plus 5 equals x plus 1. So if x were negative 2, that would give me negative 1, and a square root cannot equal negative. So I know that negative 2 will not be a part of my solution set, but 2 will. And so I'm going to go ahead and check the 2 anyways, right? So even though I found the extraneous, I still want to always double check just in case I messed up somewhere else. So I'm going to substitute in 2. So that'll give me 2 times 2, and then 2 plus 1. And so that will be the square root of 9, and does that equal 3? And it does. So 2 is my solution. And that's it for this video.